Well, it's summer, and along with the heat and the ice cream, car dealers are offering some big deals. So which ones will work best for you? With us this morning is certified financial planner Louis Barajas. He's the author of My Street Money. We want to welcome you back. A lot of people aren't sure, but tell us, should you lease or should you buy?
Well, as I had a professor at Claremont University once told me, well, it depends. He would look at me and say, it depends. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? And so what the first thing you want to do is we always say, how long do you plan to keep the car? That's just one of the questions. Do you like the new technology? Do you have that kind of, you want to show people, do you want to impress people and have a new car every 3 years? Or you're like my dad, who says, my dad tells me, look, see this car? I've got 300,000 miles on it. It's just warming up. I can go another 300,000 miles. I'll keep it for 10 years and avoid making payments. That's one of the first things. So how long do you plan to keep the car is the first question to ask.
But is it true? It seems to me like in Southern California where people are so into their cars and kind of a status that they get into a lease because they can't afford the car.
Right. Well, they get into a lease. Why? Because as soon as they walk into the dealership, whether it's, we're not going to name car companies, but the real nice statusy cars, they're trying to see if they can afford the car, the monthly payment. So it's another thing is it's a lot cheaper to go into a lease than it is to buy a car because you got to come in with a bigger down payment. And so, but the problem is that you have to take a look at the second point is how many miles are you driving the car? Because if you get in there and you live somewhere in Camarillo and have to drive into Studio City, you're going to be putting in 90 miles in your car per day. And then most leases only give you about 10 to 15,000 miles or somewhere in between. If you go over that mileage, forget it. That car's going to cost you a ton of money. So you want to focus on the second thing is not only how long do you plan to keep the car, how many miles are you going to drive the car?
Okay, because it's very costly to get out if you've gone over your miles.
Oh my God, it's unbelievably costly. And then at that point, you might as well end up buying the car, which ends up costing you a lot of money.
Okay, all right. And then what about, how much you can actually afford to spend, because a lot of people don't have a lot of money to put down.
Right. So again, it becomes down to cash flow, right? If all of a sudden, I mean, as long as you've got decent credit, they're going to lease you a car. But if you don't have a lot of money and you need a car and you're not going to be putting all that mileage, it might make sense to lease a car because you can get in there cheaper. And again, you have to sometimes pay for the car. You got to pay for the rent. You got to buy food. And we're not talking about buying a car that's an extravagant car. Talking something that you can afford. That might make sense as well. But again, you have to always take a look at not just what the monthly payment is, but what the total cost of the car is going to be. So if you're going to be buying a car, don't have somebody come up to you, a salesperson, and say, hey, how much can you afford? That's like the worst thing that you want to do. What you want to do is you want to ask them, how much is the car going to cost me? As soon as I walk out, if you're planning to buy, ask them, what's the total cost of the car? Not what the monthly is. Also, a good tip is please don't go out to 6 or 7 years of paying a car. Try to get it down to 3, 4, maybe maximum 5 years to minimize the interest that you're paying on that car. And then again, you own it faster, keep it longer, and you've got equity if you're buying the car. If you're leasing the car, just keep under that mileage. Great tips.
Okay, and you can always, of course, buy a leased vehicle or trade it in and get the same model.
That's it. Right. Yeah, get a used one too. You don't have to get a brand new car.
That's very true. Great advice. Thanks so much, Louis.